where the intended victims are just around the corner, the words of many of the people quoted in this audiobook are nothing less than an incitation to murder. Preachers of Hate is aimed at helping Americans to understand why they, too, have become targets of hate, just as Jews have been for centuries. This is the very essence of the War on Terror. September 11th should have shown us that we can no longer ignore the preachers of hate and their rhetoric, nor can we continue to make excuses for their behavior based on supposed cultural differences, oppression, or hopelessness. We are not faced with a social problem, which liberal policies and public money can solve. We are facing dedicated murderers. If we are to craft serious and effective policies to combat them, we must begin by recognizing the uncompromising depths of their hatred. The first step is to open our eyes, open our ears, and open our minds to understand what they are saying about us and about themselves. We have not a moment to lose. In the West Bank town of Nablus on September 11th, 2001, several thousand people poured into the streets shortly after news of the attacks on America was broadcast on Palestinian state radio. Demonstrators distributed candy in a traditional gesture of celebration, Associated Press reporter Mohammed Daragme noted. Daragme captured a poignant moment in what appeared to be a spontaneous outpouring of anti-American hate. In one sense, the attacks were not good because innocent people suffered, said Ahmad Ali, 40, a Palestinian cook who worked in a restaurant in East Jerusalem. But it's good because America is the only country that supports the Israeli oppression. They are right now suffering as we are suffering. I tell you on behalf of the Palestinian people that we are really happy at what happened. Arabs living in the West expressed similar comprehension of the attacks and the motives of the attackers. In the Washington, D.C. suburb of Fairfax, Virginia, public school officials ordered high school students to return home by noontime on the day of the attacks. They closed the schools not out of fear of a terrorist attack, but because Muslim students were shouting for joy, said David Keene, president of the American Conservative Union. Rasha Abu Ramadan, an executive member of the Palestinian Student Committee at the University of Ottawa, told a reporter that Palestinians in Canada welcomed the attacks because it helped make people realize what Palestinians were suffering at the hands of the Israelis. In Cairo, grocery store owner Izzat Hassan Ali told a reporter he felt pleasure at the thought of Americans dying. As they did to other people, it is happening to them now. They hit innocent people in Afghanistan and Iraq, and now it backfired on them. State-controlled television in Saddam Hussein's Iraq played a patriotic song, Down with America, as it broadcast footage of the collapse of the World Trade Center towers. In Gaza, Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat viewed television footage of the attacks and of the outpouring of joy on the Palestinian street with trepidation. We completely condemn this very dangerous attack, and I convey my condolences to the American people, to the American president, and to the American administration, not only in my name, but on behalf of the Palestinian people. Expressions of condolence flooded in from leaders throughout the Arab world who universally condemned the bombings, while invariably adding a qualifying but. The but most frequently referred to the sufferings of the Palestinian people at the hands of the Jews and America's role in supporting Israel. Leaders of the Islamic Republic of Iran were worried, just as Arafat was, that the United States would connect them to the terrorist attacks and strike in retaliation. At 9 a.m. Pacific Time on September 11th, an Iranian-backed television station in Lebanon had reported that a Japanese group with ties to Osama bin Laden was responsible for the attacks. This crude initial attempt to divert attention from the true identity of the September 11th hijackers was repeated once more in the Syrian government daily Tishreen 2 days later, but vanished as a more vicious conspiracy theory swept across the region. On September 12, 2001, once television footage of celebrating Palestinians was broadcast around the world, Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat realized he needed to act more forcefully to distance himself from the attackers, at least in the eyes of the American media. After symbolically giving blood, which he said was intended for American victims, he angrily rejected suggestions that Palestinians had rejoiced over the attacks. Arafat went on to suggest that the Israelis were taking advantage of the world's focus on the horror in the United States and perhaps exploiting its anger over Tuesday's images to tighten restrictions on Palestinians and to assault the West Bank town of Jenin, where 7 Palestinians were killed.